Alright guys, that was a bit of a hectic last 5 minutes there. Making coffee, getting things sorted out, and yeah. So, we have a bit of a problem. Hi Quip, by the way. Sorry I didn't answer that, but I was pretty busy just before the stream there. Just running about getting things done. Right. So, I'm awaiting Kent, so hopefully he lets me know when he comes in the stream so I can demonstrate the problem here. Okay. So let's give him a moment or two. And maybe I'm using the wrong meshes or something like that, but this is something that I need to get cleared up. Okay. Because you go along a system and you don't know where the bugs are going to be or where you're going to run into issues. Okay? The point of the matter here is that when placing a certain worker in the game, right, you basically had to manually place a worker in, select what worker it is, then select the job, then select a mesh for the tool, then select the montage to play. So what I was doing was automating the task. Okay? So that I can load it directly in, and all you basically need to do is pick a job and it'll select a skeletal mesh for you. It'll select the tool that it needs, it'll select the montage it needs to play, then it'll do basically the job, right? So if you look here, this is in fact the worker spawn, okay? So all you need to do is put in the job and then put in the number, okay? Then you create the interaction, which is this one, right? And then you just basically put in the number, right? And that's it. That's all you need to do. You don't need to fill in the montages to play, the skeleton to pick, the job to do. Well, you need to pick the job, but it's in a list now, right? Rather than having to pick a class and pick the right class, all you need to do is select this, right? So when you're generating this code, I've created the data tables which stores these particular things that we need. For example, the tool mesh, the montage, etc, etc, and it selects a random one, but it picks the correct montages to play, because remember, montages have to be created for a specific skeleton, right? So a chopping down a tree montage no, that's not the point. Quite abandoned, right? The point is to automate it, right? So you don't need to do anything. The point of the number is just to link you to this particular job position, right? That's the only reason you put in a number, right? But you had to do that anyway. This is a heck of a lot simpler, okay? In the case of when you normally did it, you didn't pick a number. What you did was you went into the NPC, so you would drop this guy down, right? This is an actual NPC. And then basically you'd have to fill in this for the tool, right? Then you need to basically pick your thing here with the pipette, right? Then you would need to pick a bed, right? In my system, you don't need to pick anything. All you need to do is put a number in, right? That's it. And then it'll pick a random mesh. Then it'll match up the tool, the correct tool for the job, the correct montage for the job, and all you need to do is put in the number, okay? So, yeah. So I'm just waiting on give me a second, guys. Right. No, I'm actually waiting on my colleague coming in to tell me if I'm using the correct skeletons or not. Right, because at this point there are so many folders with different skeletons, right, and different things that I'm not 100% sure if we're on the same wavelength. Right, but the problem is, right, and I'll explain the problem here while we're at it. Right, so we have 3 skeletons. I can, right, okay, let me explain this again. Well, or let me explain this in another direction. Okay, we have our 3 NPC characters at this point, right, which is this one, female, we have Viking A, and we have Viking B. Okay, now I know that Viking B isn't working, okay, but I'm not really concerned about that yet. Right, now here's the problem. This female NPC, right, she uses VI combination 5 for the skeletal mesh, right? Not mannequin, not anything else, but combination 5. Now that isn't the problem, right? The problem is that she also uses a skeletal mesh for her dress, and she also uses a skeletal mesh for her hair. Right? Now, if you're playing a montage, then you need to set all of these to play the montage at the same time. Or, basically the montage only plays on one of the parts. Okay? And that's the problem. Okay? Now, you'll notice on our other one, right, if we look at the guy, he's only got, well, he might have 2 on his hair, right? But we're not worrying about that one because it actually doesn't look any different. And this one uses SK Viking, right? Not mannequin, right? Doesn't use mannequin. This skeletal mesh uses SK Viking. Again, that's not a problem. The problem comes when they've got multiple skeletal meshes, right? Because the asset, this asset only sets one mesh, right? So let me show you the effect, okay, and what actually happens here. So what I've done is I've set up the job animations and I've given them like SKVI, which is the female, right? And then she's got her set of animations because they're all linked to a separate skeletal mesh. And I've set up SK Viking, right? And I've moved his in there, okay? Now, here's the problem. I have set up our spawn worker. And all you need to do, in this case, for our worker, is set his job, right? And then set his worker number, okay? And if you want to do the interaction, right, all you do is drop the NPC thing, drop an NPC interaction into here and set the number. That's all you need to do, right? This can be nothing, right? This can be nothing because I'll load that up for you, right? So what you'll see here is this interaction, right? You'll notice has nothing, right? It's set up as a workstation and none, right? So I've cleared this whole thing out, but I have given it the number 7, okay, to match this one, okay? Now what it's going to do is it's going to load all the stuff it needs to fill out the worker and his job, okay? It's going to get all that information from a data table, okay? So I've created a data table in here so that we can actually fill these in really easily, right? So all we do is we pick a skeletal mesh and then I've created a substructure and you just basically add each job. So that's the one for chopping wood, that's the one for spearfishing, and that's the one for the female, combination 5, right? This is the one for SK Viking. We've got chopping wood, we've got spearfishing, okay? So if we actually end up adding more skeletal meshes, it ain't actually a big issue anymore, right? We can do that. We can just fill these in, retarget the animations, put them in here, it'll select them itself, right? Job's a good one, okay? But the problem that I'm getting, which I shall demonstrate, is, if I pick her, or, right, if I say chopping wood, right, let's go spearfishing, right? If I pick spearfishing, right, whatever character gets spawned here is basically going to walk over here and then start spearfishing, okay? Which is exactly what we'd expect, you know, the thing to do, right? Fair enough. So if I hit 5, character gets, there he goes, right? Gives him his tool, does his thing, goes up to there, and he's decided not to do that. Ah. Why do things just stop working? This has been working, well, the NPC's been working up till now, basically, and all of a sudden when I need to show you, Kent, that it suddenly decides I'm not going to work anymore. Right, 5, right, so you can see we spawn her, she gets her thing, off she goes, right? Right, but she's going to the wrong place, don't know why. It's decided it's going to be an arsehole. Right. Right, I'm going to recreate this. So I'm going to delete that. Right. And we're going to go back to our blueprints. NPCs. We may as well pick the right one. Not that it really matters, right? Right, so basically all we do is we type in 7, right? Because that's the corresponding one. Now, as I said, we can actually remove this, which is the thing to do here, right? So that you're understanding what's going on, right? So we don't know what montage we're going to play. Right, which is the situation that we begin with, right? Because we don't know what skeletal mesh it's going to be, right? So, and if this doesn't work, I'm going to actually lose my temper a bit. Right. Now, this might be okay actually, right? I'm going to say this might be okay because she needs to actually only go there at 9 o'clock, I believe. Even though when I started this before, she was going straight there. Right, I'm going to stop that for now, right? Right, workstation. Right. Go at this. Right, we don't have that as such. Right, we'll just do it. Right, play. Right. I can actually show some of this without actually it working properly as such, but it would have made more obvious. Right, so you can see, is she going to go to her job? No. Not that it matters. Right, the point is, that we have her, right? She's set up, she should work from 9 till then. We can also set this up in the data table as well if we like. Yeah, it also changes to red when you get to 25%, by the way. I did that last night. Right, so 9 o'clock she should move to her job. Hi, Cassadell Gaming. Right, so we've got this, right? And that is our NPC. So she's set up fine. Okay, she's got her tool, the right tool, blah de blah. And the next thing we need is this one here. Right. So you'll notice here that we've not actually set up. Right, so this is bollocks. Okay. Now, this points us back to the code now. Which obviously is a pain in the ass. If we go back to her, right, this is the thing that's getting us our montage. Okay, now just for a minute, I'm going to do something, right? So I'm going to pick this one because I think this kind of works, but this kind of shows the problem. Right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to here, then I'm going to go to our data table. We're going to select our combination 5, right, and in here we're going to go to our chopping wood thing. Right, so that's that. Okay, now if we want to have a look at this, right, this montage looks okay, right? That's what should happen. Right, so that proves that. Quite abandoned. I don't know what you think software development is, but most of it is bug fixing. I think if you look at the stats, if you there's the I think I saw some stats a while ago, and it's something like for every line of code you write, you introduce a bug, and a programmer only creates about 15 lines of code a day. It was something that sounds completely unbelievable. Right, 5. Right, so she's sodded off. Now, what we can do again is we can change her to 8, let's say. Now, you'll notice that we've filled in our tool mesh for her. But the interesting one we want to look at is this, right? And we did not get a montage to play, right? And, well, we didn't hit this breakpoint either, right? Which means that there's an error. We have another issue. becoming a bit frustrating, I'll tell you that much. Right, we're not doing spearfishing, we're doing chopping bloody wood. Save that. Let's keep this right. Right, so it's given us a montage this time, right? So we've got chopping wood, the skeletal mesh is the man. So basically we should get our man. He should bugger off over there and start chopping. There you go, right? Now you'll notice I set up nothing, right? I never set up a mesh, I never set up a montage, I never did nothing, right? My system does this itself, right? But the problem is, if we do it with a female, if we can manage to randomly spawn the female, right? Now remember, this is automatically, this is random, right? So every time we reload or whatever, it's going to select a random skeletal mesh for us, right? So it might be a man, it might be the other man, it might be, if we've got 10 different men, it's going to pick a different man every time to do a job, blah, 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 right? Resume. Right, so now we've got our female, okay? Which is cool. She's going up, she's got her axe, but look, right? So there's the problem, Mad Monkey, Mr. Two Mad Monkeys. There's the problem. The montage only gets applied to one skeletal mesh in the asset. So you can see that my code works, right? It picks out the right montage, it picks out the right weapon, the right tool, it picks out the right mesh, it matches them all up, and then spawns the right character, then sends her to the right workstation, blah blah blah. Everything works. Right? But, so, that's why I didn't understand earlier when you're saying they're using S Mannequin. None of them are using S Mannequin. Right, they're using SI-VI combination 5 and SI Viking, which is fine. I've not got a problem with that, right? But I was getting confused. Right, so anyway, I suppose and I don't know if this is going to work, right, but this is going to be my first pass at trying to fix this. Okay. Yeah, but they're different. It doesn't matter if they're VI and S. They're different. Every skeletal mesh is different. Yeah, but the problem is if you add another one, then that's 3. And then if you add another one, then that's 4. Right? And because I didn't know exactly how you were doing it, I was getting confused, and then things weren't retargeting. And then I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Right? But my system works. Right? But the problem now is that somehow I need to fix this asset. Right, now it's going to be okay when it's walking. Well, the skeletal mesh doesn't really matter. I've always been saying it's skeletal mesh. Right, so the point is here that what I'm going to have to do is somehow, when he interacts with something, I think it's in here, No, it's not that. It's... oh, which one is it? Is it under AI? It might be, but I'm not convinced. It's under, it's not... right, okay. It's... is it in the master? Could be in here, but I don't think it is, but I'll recognise it when I see it. Right, now I'm looking, this must be a task, right? This must be a task in the AI. Right? As I said, I'll know what it, I'll know it when I see it, right? It's a task, it's definitely a task. Alright, refill, stop on. Right, BT task work. Right, this is it here. Okay, now look at this lovely code. Look at this well designed POS. Right, so what we need to do is find out where in the hell... right, it's here. Okay, so this is our control pawn. Okay. Now, I'm going to move this because that's just... okay, so we know right. We know that these are all BP NPC masters, okay? Now, I shouldn't have done that, but anyway. This is stop animation montage. We don't want stop animation montage. Right. Right, so that's just like a loop that takes it back and does it every 10 seconds. Now, I don't know why that's not a timer, but anyway. Right. So that's definitely given us our NPC. That's given us a cast. Right, this is stopping the animation. Right, so it's not that one. We need to see where it's playing the animation. Right, and it's not that one because it's saying stop all animations. So, is it in here? It's not in there. So, I'm guessing it has to be in the master. Right. Okay. Play. So there's no montage in here. Right. So the only other place I can think it's going to be is in here. Right. Right, that's checking the time. Right. And what's this one doing? That's setting the work location, I would guess. So the question is, where is it using these? Where is it using this task? Right, I'm going to close all these down. So where is it using the play montage? Right. So that's moved to workplace location. Then once he's at the location, we do BT task work. Right. But there's nowhere here that it starts. But it can't be in there unless it's there, but it's not. So where's the play animation? Where? I didn't see it. It was only stop and a montage. Stop and a montage. That's it. The only thing I can think of is this. So this is in BP, the interaction. Right, so it must be this. Right, but this is the first time we've had this open now. That makes sense, right? So we've got our NPC. Right? Which is this one here. This here, rather. Right. Now, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we're going to give it a go because we're mental. right? We're going to cast. Well, let's hang on a second and let's see what that's actually given us. I believe NPC is giving us an NPC master, right? Okay, fine. Cool, I can deal with that. Now, if we want this to work, get components. Right. Skeletal mesh component. For each Alright, so we'll keep this down here so that we know that everything's cool. We're going to have to return our success. So that's going to be on completed. We're going to loop that into the body. And then our target is going to be not that. Okay. Play. And we might have to say I don't know how to fix this. I thought I'd be able to get the skeletal meshes by the children and be able to play them all, but obviously I can't. Right, which means that I can't play all the I can't play all the montages in all the components. Any ideas? Because I'm kind of stuck here. Right, these skeletal meshes are the two that are messing it up, right? And if I drag that in, right, just as an example, right, if I type in, I can in fact play a montage. Right, so what is that? It's a skeletal mesh component. Alright. Wait a minute. Right, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to delete that. If I paste that, you see it's not letting me do it. It is not. And that's because is it because it's a bleeding function? Well, that doesn't make sense. can't cast it. And I can't play the montage. Right? And this is not an actor, this is like a function library. Well, that's not so good. Okay, we could take another route here. Right? Let me just see if I can do a bit of jiggery pokery. Alright. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom event, right? Create a custom event in here. Okay. And we're going to say update work montages. Okay. And then I'm going to say get all get components by class, right? And then we're going to say skeletal. Oh, piss off. Skeletal mesh component, right? Now, if this doesn't work, I can send in. And just give me a minute, I'll try and do my little bit of magic here. Right, so we'll actually, this shouldn't be get components of class. We should be getting all the components. Get components by class. We could tag them as well. Doesn't really matter, to be fair. Right, but next we'll say for each right, and in here we'll add our input, right, and we'll say work montage, right. Hi Todd Durholt, and what was I going to type there? Oh yeah, anim montage, right, and that's a load of crap. Montage. Right, so we'll pass the montage in here, right? And we'll do that. Right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this, play. What? There's our play montage. Actor component. What? Scale Scale mesh component, thank you. Ah. Right, we can't do that. Right, so that's out the window. Forget that idea. The only other way that I could do this, there is still a plan. I do still have another couple of tricks up my sleeve for this. Right? Right, but we'll put it back the way it was anyway for now, so as not to confuse ourselves. Right. But what we could do, some people have, some people don't have problems with 5.1, you know, which I say to them, good luck to you. But I have got a video on why I don't use 5 point whatever, which I'm probably you've just ran into the problems that I outlined there. Right, my final attempt at this, right, is what we're going to try and do is we're not going to play an anime montage at all. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our actual individual animation blueprints, right? And what we could do is add that they're working, right? Because this is the simplest animation blueprint ever, and all I actually need to do is put a state here that says is working, and then we can add in this, not the montage, but this, and it'll work just the same, right? Or at least it should, right? So I'm going to go and grab a cigarette. I'll be back in 5 minutes. If you're enjoying the stream, hit like and subscribe. I'll be just having a cigarette. Check out the description for links to Discord for the game, Discord for my personal one, plus Patreon and my previous game on Steam. I'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Okay guys, we're back. Okay, so good night, Ken. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a variable in here, right? And we're going to call it is working. Now, when we fire this off, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a variable, right? And we are going to call it work animation. In fact, no, we're not. We're going to say e job, right? And that is going to be e worker job. Okay, so what we're going to do is when we fire this up, we're going to pass in our two variables. Well, no, we're going to pass in this variable to tell it what job we should be doing, right? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this in here, right? We're going to add a state and we're going to call it working. Okay, and then we're going to pass it back again. We'll set these up. Yeah, not bad. You didn't offend me, by the way, Todd. I just get asked that question an awful lot and I ended up making a video on it, right? So I just point people to the video rather than tell them the 10 reasons that I don't use it every time, right? And it's the point of the video is it's called Why I Don't Use Unreal Engine 5 Yet, right? It's like anything else, right? It's like, you know, why do people still play Diablo 2 when there's Diablo 3, right? Because people find Diablo 3 better. Or why do people use Windows 10 instead of Windows 11? Why do people use Windows 95 instead of Windows 10? Blah, 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 you know. Can be lots of reasons for it. Right? So we basically put that in there. It's basically all the things, glitches, slowdowns. It's just not ready yet, right? Plus the fact that we don't use Lumen and the other one, which I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Lumen and whatever it's called, can't remember. Plus the fact that a lot of your favourite right, we're going to branch that. Okay, we're not going to branch that. Can't enter as true, so we'll save that. As I said, it's probably all the very same reasons that you kind of, if you've stopped using it, right? It's no different, right? Probably ran into all the same issues. You'll notice my actual tutorials I've done are actually in 5, right? Because there's very little difference as well, right? Apart from Lumen and the other thing that I can't remember. Right, so we say not on this one, and that's going to jump us straight back out again. Okay, compile that, and Then we go back to here, we go to our work state, right, and we're going to pick our, it doesn't actually matter, right, but here's a little trick for you guys. What you can do is, if we select this, we can change this to expose as a pin, right, and then we can do a select. Okay, I can't exactly remember how to do this, but we're going to be doing it on this job. And that's actually not what we do. It is kind of what we do, but it also isn't kind of what we do. Right, I think what we need to do here is we change the pin type to anim. Yeah, is it that? Right, let's try this. So this is the one for the chopping wood, right? Right, so we don't do that. Right, there is a way of doing this, but I can't remember what it is. Right, I'm going to save this for now, and I'm going to go into my pawn because I've done the same thing. So if we go into here and here, right, and if we look at dead, right, see this? We can copy that paste that in there, right? I'm going to paste this in twice in case I screw this up. If you then use the other one, right? We can Right now, I'm wondering here. It's an animation sequence, right? So, change pin type. Details panel. Don't know what you're on about. I just need to get this set up. I've not done this very much. It's just I need to do this. right? So all we need to do is select the asset here, right? So this is it now. All we do is we hook these up to the right thing. You're kind of, I don't know if you're actually talking about two different things to me here, or you've missed out a specific sentence or something that ties what you're saying together, but what you're saying kind of doesn't make sense. You've got I mean in the details panel. You mean what in the details panel? Then I cannot something the actors. Highlight the actors. If you bring in assets from another project. Okay, how are you bringing them in? That's the question. Right, so we've not got a begging one, right? So we can't use that. So we're looking for chopping wood, right? Which is this one here, right? And I'm guessing it has to be this one then. But it's not that either. And in sequence. So if I say chopping wood F, well, it doesn't let me drag them in, but I can type them in here. Chopping wood F. Right, and the only other one I've got here is spear fishing. And I don't know which one this is, right? So that's S mannequin. It's not that one. It's not that one, I don't think. Right, are you using the migrate? Are you using migration? Okay, so right, I have to ask you again if you're using montage 4. Right, so we have to select that and then pick that one. Apparently it doesn't like that. Right, I don't know what you're doing. You're following a tutorial, right? So are you migrating them, or are you dragging them in directly, or what are you doing? Don't know what you're doing, right? Right, so why? Right, okay, VI. Spear. Fishing. Loop. VI. Right, thank you, thank God. Right. So we save that. No, you don't. That's not how you do it, mate. That's not how you do it. You've been conned by a tutorial by someone who basically doesn't know what they're doing. Nope. 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 Right, here's what you do, right? Say I wanted to export, yeah, we'll do it simple one, right? Say I wanted to export that, right? Static mesh, right? All you do is right click on it, right? You go to Asset Actions, Migrate, okay? It'll save all your stuff first, so we'll let it save all the stuff, and then it'll basically show you what it's going to actually migrate. Now, some of these are going to be just the empty folder, right? But in this case, it's going to actually do our materials as well, because the materials are associated with us. So it's going to migrate everything that those assets need into your folder, right? So in this case it's a static mesh, so it's going to do the static mesh and it's going to do the material and the textures, okay? So at this point you would say, yep, that looks good to me. I'm going to have to do a bit of tidy up later, take it out of this folder and that, right? But that's just something you've got to deal with, right? Then you press OK. Then basically what you do is you pick the folder, the content folder of the project that you want to put it into, right? So in my case, if I wanted to put this into, let's say, a Unreal projects, right? And I wanted to put it in Cool Strike, I would open up Cool Strike and then I would select content, right? Because that's your root folder. And then basically you just select the folder and blam, it's done, right? Now remember this SM bench, right? So if I now open Cool Strike, which is a fairly empty project, I hope, right, so if I do that, go to library, then I'll open Cool Strike. This might not work because I went down versions, right? It works better if you go up versions, but we're not going to worry about that for now. We'll try and open this and see if it actually worked or not. I think that it's just a static mesh, so this is going to work fine, right? There's nothing different between a static mesh and 4.25 probably and 4.27, so it's not going to cause us a problem, right? But normally, if you're going to do it, you go up the way, right? If you're going down the way, that's a little more complicated, but if you're going down the way, basically you need to rebuild your project. Now, there is another way of doing it that I'll show you in a second, right? But again, you're probably better using the migrate to find out what stuff you need, right? For doing the stuff you need to migrate, because as I said, like a static mesh uses, you know, textures, materials and the mesh, you know. If you do something else that's got a blueprint, right, and the blueprint's got a mesh in it, yeah, that should be fine. Going up the way should be fine, right? And this is the way you should do it, right? So you'll notice now, right, and when this opens up, right, remember, it's that static mesh bench, right? So you'll notice we've now got this human AI, which wasn't here before. We've got our materials, so we've got our simple colour, and we've got our meshes with our bench, right? So there is our new asset that we just exported or migrated from our previous, right? And you can see there, just load it in. Yeah, because you've not migrated them. You've not done it right, okay? Delete those and do what I showed you. Right? Your big mistake was you followed the tutorial, okay? Delete all the stuff that you just did and then migrate it out of your 4.24 project up to 5, right? I'll guarantee it'll be fine. Well, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine, right? But you'll see there, worked for me, not a problem. And that was actually going down the way which you shouldn't normally be able to do in migrate, right? But there you go, okay? And that's how you migrate properly. So as I said, get your, the easiest way to do it, right? See if you want to do the whole thing, right? If you want to migrate, basically, if you want to migrate everything out of your old project, right? All you really need to do is get a map that's got all the stuff on it that you use, right? And migrate that, because I'll show you what happens, right? So if I, for example, pick a map, right, and I go to this one and I select this, I didn't want to open that up actually, I just want to migrate it, thank you very much. You'll see that it will it won't be just the map, it'll be blooming everything, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to save everything first before I do this, because this would normally not be the greatest of ideas under the circumstances. If there's nothing, if I've not got any problems, obviously I wouldn't be doing this, right? I'm going to save it in the meantime, right? So you just select your map or all your maps, right? Right click, asset actions, migrate, okay? And you'll notice that it's basically selecting everything, so it's going to migrate everything, okay? So look at the list. It's basically doing nearly everything, okay? So go into your main map that's got using most of your assets, right? And export and migrate that. And that'll get you 90% of the way there. And then basically, if there's stuff you've not got, you can just go into your old project, find it, then migrate that one, right? And just finish it off like that. But that's the way you're supposed to do it, right? That is what Epic tell you to do. I've no idea what the other way you were doing it was, right? But you can't just like copy and paste the assets across. That doesn't work, right? Yeah, you wouldn't be getting everything because you don't know everything that's linked to the asset, right? Like, for example, the static mesh. Did you get the textures? Did you get the materials? Probably not, because they'll be in a different folder somewhere. So basically all you did was brought in the mesh and that was it. Or brought in the material and that was it, right? What you got to remember is when you migrate it, Unreal Engine checks for all of its dependencies, and migrates all of them as well. It's not really the other way, right? No, copy and paste ain't going to work. Right? Because copy and paste ain't going to get you the dependencies and the links between them, right? When you migrate it, the migrate tool is for exactly that purpose, right? That it gets the dependencies and basically migrates them as well. Right, so it should be coming fairly obvious to you that basically what you were watching in the tutorial was completely wrong. Or it was for another specific thing. Now there are other ways of doing it, right? But there's nothing as fast as migrating. Or is not laborious. Okay? You don't want to make I don't make adjustments? What adjustments? Don't understand what adjustments you'd want to make. Well, that's just the price you've got to pay for moving from 4.24 to 5. That's it. It would be the same for anything. It just depends. Right? The one that you don't ever want to do is have to move a big project down, right? Because then you can't migrate. You basically have to rebuild the whole project. So, as I said, get your map with most of the references to your objects in it. Right click. Asset, migrate, job's a good one, right? It will highlight fine, right? Just do the right thing, migrate. Do the right thing and it'll work. Right, so what we were doing again was trying to get this to work. And we need to set the E job when we do this, right? Now, what we're going to have to do is, how are we going to set this now? Well, it looks to me like we're going to have to do an event, begin play. Right, and then we're gonna have to get the pawn or at least we're gonna have to try and get the pawn. And then we're going to say is valid. And we're going to have to cast it. This is a lot of messing around, because this is a problem, right? A very similar problem to what you are experiencing here. And the fact that when you work with tutorials and marketplace assets, you can be pretty much 90% sure that it ain't going to go how you think it's going to go. And it ain't going to do what you think it's going to do. Right? Like, for example, this, I'm having to rewrite the whole thing because just because the skeletal mesh that we use doesn't work with this marketplace asset, right? You've got to use the most basic skeletal mesh that you can, which we don't, right? So these things all work if you're just using the mannequin, but as soon as you're not, then you're screwed. Right, so what we're going to have to do is in our BP master, right? We're going to have to work on a way of doing this. Right. I'm going to add a variable here. Now, this is a bit of, I'm going to call it master job, right, just so it's different. It's going to be E worker job, right? Now, when we set our E worker job, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the master job, and then when we set the master job, we're going to set the animation instance for that. Okay. Now this is going to take a bit of figuring out, because all of these animation instances are going to be different, but I guess we can probably get away with it. Right, so I'm not going to do it on begin play because that's not going to work. Right, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to create a custom event. Right, and we're going to have set job. Okay, and then we're going to have to set it. Right, and then in here we're going to put job, and it's going to be E. Well, I'm glad you got it fixed, but you should always use migrate. Right. It's always a good idea, by the way, Todd, that if you have a weird problem like that, that it doesn't seem to be acting logically, right? What to do is just close down Unreal Engine and then open it back up, and that sometimes fixes your problem. Well, it wouldn't be the first time that just basically restarting Unreal Engine has fixed a problem. Right, so in our BPNPC, well, this is a bollocks. Right, we're setting the job here. Right, we've got our actor. Right, we're not going to need to do this, but we do need the job. Okay. But our problem is, I'm going to have to create a master animation blueprint. But you need to base it on a skeleton, which is a problem. Right. Our problem now is the fact fire away, Todd. I'm thinking. Well, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. Because it's another layer upon the... Let me explain this. I can't remember the terminology exactly, but it's another layer of interpretation, okay? So, if you imagine, right, back in the old days, right, if you wrote machine code, right, no, it's not personal preference. There are reasons for it, right? But the thing is, right, back in the good old days, if you wrote code, right, and you would write it in, let's say, a couple of different ways, right? You would write it in machine code, right? Now, machine code was the fastest, right? Because you were basically programming it into the metal, as they said, right? It was as close to what the computer could understand as a human could possibly do, right? And even then, it was practically impossible to understand, right? And then the layer above that was, let's say, C++, which, again, can be fairly abstract and difficult to understand. And it's not as fast as machine code, but it's faster than the next layer up, which is like, let's say, Basic or Visual Basic, which is much closer to English, right? And easier to understand, but much further away from the metal, right? So it's a layer of abstraction away from like zeros and ones, okay? So to put it in a simple way, like machine code would be one layer away from zeros and ones. C++ would be 3 levels away from zeros and ones. Basic would be 5 levels away from zeros and ones. And let's say a visual scripting tool like, let's say, Unreal Engine Blueprints might be 7 layers away from zeros and ones, right? So when they're compiled, although the sort of levels crunch together a bit, it still isn't crunched together a bit equally, right? So the level 7 abstraction doesn't become machine code or the same efficiency as machine code, right? The layer 7 abstraction blueprints don't become suddenly C++, okay? They're close, but they're not quite as fast, right? So the reason you do it is for two reasons. Number one is if you're comfortable using C++, it's easier just to do stuff in C++, right? And number two, C++ is inherently faster if you write it in purely C++, right? But what you got to remember as well is that Unreal Engine is not supposed to be just C++. It's supposed to be a mixture of Blueprints and C++. So for things that you want to run really, really fast, right, you do it in C++. For things that are not necessarily, you know, performance related, then there's no reason not to just do it in Blueprints, right? So that's why C++ and Blueprints, okay? Hopefully that explains it for you. Right, this is going to be a bit of a stinker, right? I've got a feeling this is going to be a complete stinker because I am already hacking into this asset from the marketplace, and now I'm going to actually have to heavily edit it so that it's no longer using animation montages. It's going to have to use the animation blueprints, but the problem we've got now is that we've got 3 separate animation blueprints or a separate animation and calculations, heavy calculations. Right, think about it this way, right? Let's say you're adding 26 numbers, right? Let's say you're adding 26 numbers, right? Or you're doing 26 different calculations, right? In nodes, that wouldn't be, well, number one, it'd be a blooming spaghetti nightmare, right? But number two, it's 26 nodes, right? Now, in theory, in C++, that would be one line of code, right? Whereas in the blueprints, you're using 27 different nodes to do the same thing, right? So basically the interpreter has to go back and forward and say, right, okay, I'm using a plus now for that node, and then I'm using a minus for that node, and then I'm using a tip multiply for that node, and then I'm using a this for that node. In C++, it's just add the bloody numbers together, right? And that's it. Do the calculation. And like from what I've heard as well, looping through arrays is much faster, but it depends. It all depends, right? I mean, as I've said, I answered this one last night as well, right? That it depends how your project goes, right? You might go through the whole thing and you've not got a performance issue at all, right? Now, there's other ways to obviously mitigate performance issues, but don't Not the only one isn't just make everything C++, but no, right? You're not understanding code, right? Or especially not event-driven code, right? A multiple AI enemy only ever uses one AI, right? So you're only ever using one AI. So it doesn't matter if it's got multiple, you're only using one, right? So that makes no difference. Right, I'm going to have to take a further look into this. So I'm going to call it a night, guys. If you've enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe. Especially for you, Todd. If you haven't already, check the description for links to the Discord for the game and my personal Discord, where people can ask me questions and stuff. And also my Patreon, where you can help out the channel, and my previous game on Steam. So I'll be back tomorrow, 2 PM usual time. Thank you guys for watching, I appreciate it. Bye bye for now.